from 512 to 43, I think the answer writing practice has made it. Your reels were timed so rightly that
Hmm.
anytime I had a question, I don't know how somehow the answer used to appear in your reels. And then, in fact, without you knowing, you became like a mentor of for me. Reading the basic books 3 times, then preparing notes, then revising your notes at least 2 times, and then coming to answer writing. And I think one of your reels only suggested that make a kind of a table where you write your progress from first mock to the last. You write
Yeah.
your marks down and you see how progressively you're going forward. I diligently did that. I did that. You have to consistently study at least 8 to 9 hours every day. There is no hard and bound rule as to how many hours you should study. But I think consistency is what makes a difference in this exam.
Hello and welcome everyone. Today we have with us Rupal Jaiswal, who has secured AIR 43, and Rupal also secured AIR 512 last year, and this is the second time that she has cleared the exam. So, hello and welcome, Rupal. Congratulations, first of all. How are
Thanks a
you
lot.
doing?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you.
So, Rupal, in this entire journey, just give us a brief about your journey. कि भाई आपने कितने attempt दिए, आपका optional क्या है, and all of these things.
So, I come from an aspirational district, Khandwa, in Madhya Pradesh. I had my schooling from my hometown only.
Hmm.
Thereafter, I pursued Symbiosis Law School from Symbiosis Law School, Pune, BLLB honors.
Hmm.
And I have worked in a law firm for almost 2 years. I quit my job in the end of 2022 and then began my UPSC Civil Services examination preparation. I have given 3 attempts till now, and in the first attempt, I did not even clear prelims. I, in fact, could not clear because of CSAT. That was 2023.
Hmm.
And in 2024, I secured AIR 512. And now, after appearing again in the third attempt, I finally managed to secure AIR 43.
घर पे everybody is happy.
Really happy. They are just so proud and taking congratulatory messages from people, welcoming people. They have become so social in just a matter of 2 days.
Yeah.
It's crazy, honestly.
And I think it is like एक वो moment होता है ना जो I think Indian parents dream of their kids like either cracking IIT or clearing civil services.
I know. Yes, yes.
So you've made them really really proud and like it's been a journey. काफी ऊपर नीचे
Exactly.
आगे पीछे.
Yes, definitely. It's been a long journey of 3.5 years, and yeah, I mean, I think at the end, I got what I wanted. So I would just say that it feels like a redemption. It's
Yeah.
moksha for me.
मोक्ष तो चलो मतलब ज्यादा हो जाएगा बिकॉज मोक्ष में तो मतलब प्राण त्याग दिए सब कुछ हो गया. We still want
Fair
you to
enough.
serve as an IAS officer. But so, Rupal, in this entire journey, मतलब where did you meet UPSCprep.com? मतलब शशांक सर ने कहाँ कुछ inputs दिया, क्या हुआ? Because he's also from Symbiosis, so I think you guys connected on that.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think I am very glad that you asked that question because when I started my preparation, I had no clue. After quitting my job, I knew I wanted to do this, and I have had a little bit of knowledge about the syllabus, but
Hmm.
I did not have a strategy. And I did not want to join any coaching institute because I had spoken to several other aspirants as well who I knew from beforehand, and they suggested coaching is not a necessity.
Hmm.
And I wanted to stay at home and study, and that is why I decided, okay, let me first start preparation and then I'll see if I need a coaching institute. And because of I started searching on YouTube various coaching institutes, etc., available online, and that is how I think the algorithm caught my interest, and I came across one of your reels about how to begin. And
Hmm.
the best part was that your reels were timed so rightly that
Hmm.
anytime I had a question, I don't know how somehow the answer used to appear in your reels, and every stage. So
Hmm.
first, for example, I had a question: how to read, which NCRTs to read,
Hmm.
and there would be a reel of your channel giving me the NCRTs, which NCRTs to read,
Yeah.
and that is how I started following UPSCprep.com in the first place. And then, in fact, without you knowing, you became like a mentor of for me because I was continuously following your suggestions and advices from time to time. And then my first contact with UPSC Prep was when I gave a mock interview with
Mm.
you in 2024. So that was my first direct interaction, and of course I had good feedback from the team. Then I met Shashank sir through WhatsApp only because I wanted to fill in my service preferences.
Yeah.
That is he gave quite detailed analysis of various services, which to fill,
Mm.
which not to fill, and I had some questions related to the reservation criteria for OBC as well.
Yeah.
So he was really helpful about that, and we connected, of course, on the fact that he was my college senior. So we kept in touch after that, and lots of useful, advices from you, from him, and I think it just became a part of my journey.
Really, thank you for those kind words that you said. So, Rupal, in this entire process, you mentioned this earlier when we were talking that mains say 20 दिन पहले करीब, you got to know that a service has not been allocated. So you face the same problem as me and Shashank sir have been facing, which is like service allocation ka issues. So for those that are watching, I'll also give a small aside. By the time that you watch this, so the judgment for that case has been reserved by the Supreme Court. So it might come out maybe 1 month, 2 months from now. Hopefully, people giving in 2026 don't have to face this issue, right? And this will be an issue that will be settled once and for all. But till even last year, there were people who faced this issue. So once you did not get service allocation, Madhav, how did you change your mains preparation between your first and your second attempt?
So, first approach was to look at the toppers copies.
Hmm.
I in fact knew a few people who had the highest scores, for example, in GS2. So I asked for their copies, and I looked at the way they are writing and the way I am writing. I
Any
identified my.
particular names that you'd want to take over here? कि भाई इनकी copies बहुत बढ़िया थी.
Yes, I looked at Ashish Raghuvanshi. I think he had AIR 202 in
Hmm.
2024. He had the highest marks in GS2.
Okay.
And I knew him beforehand due to our interview preparation together.
Hmm.
So I looked at his copy and I learned a lot from it. And I think that also helped in incorporating the answer writing techniques in other papers as well.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I updated my notes with current affair related
Hmm.
content. I used to diligently read the newspaper, and I used to incorporate whatever relevant articles I used to come across. And I think apart from that, practicing answer writing itself has
Hmm.
been very consistently a part of my strategy. I have consistently practiced a lot of answer writing. In fact, essay and
Hmm.
ethics were the two papers I worked on a lot this time. I did practice ethics last time as well, but I did feel that I lagged somewhere,
Hmm.
and that is why I scored what 110, 111 marks in ethics and essay respectively. So then I worked on these two papers a lot. I looked at the toppers copies.
Hmm.
I did send my essays to other peer groups, and we
Yeah.
used to take opinion from each other. So that has helped me, and I consistently wrote the essays on time, and seriously reconsidered the evaluation received.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think this was the what helped me in the in from 512 to 43. I think the answer writing practice has made a difference.
So if you had to give a breakdown of कि भाई how should one approach answer writing, how would you tell somebody, let's say somebody who's just beginning, कि भाई Rupal, when she was starting this journey, is watching this podcast, and what would be useful to that somebody who's just starting their UPSC journey? कि भाई अच्छा, this is how you approach answer writing.
So my approach was that I would not start answer writing unless I have at least had read my notes two times.
Hmm.
So reading the basic books three times, then preparing notes, then revising your notes at least two times, and then coming to answer writing. This was what
Till
I
then,
followed.
was there no answer writing at all till you've done all of this?
Yes, it may be difficult to believe, but yes,
Hmm. Okay.
I had that because I did not clear prelims in my first attempt. So I had that time to read, then make notes, and then begin answer writing.
Okay.
So I think understanding the basics of answer writing, you can just look at the toppers copies,
Hmm.
understand the introduction, conclusion, how they embellish it with a lot of different SDGs and quotes, and all these things are very important. And these
Hmm.
things you should have ready beforehand. Like there are PYQs which you can use as a template for understanding what all content will be required in your answers. So I did go through the PYQs. I think UPSC Prep also has a compilation of
Hmm.
PYQs. So I used to look at year-wise PYQs from every subject. I used to brainstorm them. It is not necessary that you write all the answers, but brainstorming is very important. So I
Okay.
used to think about the content which will go into each answer.
Hmm.
Right from introduction towards the conclusion, entire answer I would brainstorm. And then, yes, I think that has helped me a lot.
Right. So essentially, what you're talking about is that there was a thorough amount of preparation that went into it. The way you created, well, you studied two, three times, then you created your notes, and on the basis of those notes, you revised, and then you started writing answers. So
Yes.
while somebody is writing answers, what are the things that they should most pay attention to? What is, like, the ABCs of answer writing? कि भाई ये तो हो गया कि भाई back end preparation before it goes. Then you've said कि भाई आपको SDGs वगैरह पे ध्यान देना है. But like, let's take up one particular question and let's break it down from there.
Sure,
You want me to give you a question from Mains 25?
sure, sir.
GS 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is your preference?
Two.
Okay. There is a question which says that the duty of the comptroller and auditor general is not merely to ensure the legality of expenditure, but also its propriety. So, how would you approach this question?
So first of all, I'll try to break down the question. The question is on CAG. So of
Hmm.
course, the introduction, immediately it should click that the introduction should have an article.
Hmm.
Because CAG being a constitutional authority, I'll mention Article 148 of the
Hmm.
Constitution prescribes the powers and functions of CAG.
Yeah.
And I would say that these functions range from analyzing the proprietary to what the question is saying,
Hmm.
legality, not just legality, but propriety as well.
Yeah.
So I would say that the powers, the scope of these powers is not limited to legal accountability, but
Hmm.
also ensuring the economy and the propriety of the expenditure. Then, sir, what was the tail word? Explain. What
I
was
will
it?
just share it on screen so that people can also see that. Right. So, comment is the tail word.
Comment. Yes. So it is very important to understand what comment means. Comment means you giving sort of an opinion and
Hmm.
also critiquing it if there is any lacuna in the powers of CAG. So
Hmm.
I think in mains as well, I approached the answer. I went with the article first. I underlined it.
Hmm.
Only two, three sentences were enough. Two, three lines were enough in the
Hmm.
introduction. Then I would go to the heading. Subheadings are very important in an answer. So I would label the heading as scope of powers of CAG, and then I would divide the answer into points. So
Hmm.
I would ensure that at least 4 points in every heading. So if this answer is comment, then I would first write about the scope of powers, four
Hmm.
points. 4 points can relate to the types of audits which are
Hmm.
done by the CAG. Because legality of the audit, there are, I think there is revenue, a revenue account report is presented, some other
Hmm.
capital account report. I am not able to recall the technical terms right now, but I
Hmm.
will mention all that. And then I will go to a second subheading where I will write the lacunae in the powers of the CAG. And then
Hmm.
I would mention that, the audit is not directly done by CAG for all the PSUs. A lot of it is delegated to other authorities as well, other
Hmm.
accountants as well. And then I would just write 2 3 points there, and
Okay.
then I will briefly mention that the powers of the CAG as envisaged in the constitution are wide. However, we need to do so and so. So I will briefly just write a suggestion or two, and then suggest, if you do not have time, then that itself will become the conclusion. The suggestions itself will become the conclusion.
Okay.
If you have the time, then maybe you can mention any committee report slightly in the last line, and that will
Hmm.
become the conclusion, giving the reforms.
Okay. So, in all of this, you mentioned that the tail word, if it is comment, if it is discussed, so how does that make a difference to your answer?
So
Just
it determines the structure of
just
my answer.
for the viewers, there are different keywords. Like for example, even on this page, जहाँ हम देख रहे थे, so between this question over here, it is comment. Right. इससे
Yes.
पहले में there is elucidate, उससे पहले है explain, then there is examine. So there are a lot of these keywords that mains का questions are asking. So how does the word make a difference in your answer?
So the word will determine that I do not miss out any major subparts. So
Hmm.
not always the mains question will provide you with the various subparts of the question. You have to
Okay.
break it down.
Hmm.
So, for example, the statement based question we just discussed, it did have two subparts.
Yeah.
It did have the current existing
Legality and
scope.
propriety. Yeah.
Yes. So to understand that, the keyword is very important.
Hmm.
The tail word is very important. For example, comment means that you have to critically understand something. You have to give your opinion on it. That
Hmm.
is what comment means. So you cannot simply write theoretically what exists as
Hmm.
of now, but you also have to write how it should be.
Hmm.
So that is what comment is. And when we say the question is about elaborate, then you need not necessarily go into the reforms, etc.
Hmm.
Uh, for example, Election Commission of India powers, elaborate. So you will just write about the various powers, and maybe in the conclusion, briefly, you will mention that to make it more effective, certain committee recommendations can be implemented. So
Hmm.
this is how my answer will be, and that is, and I think when the examiner examines the paper, I think they do have a certain criteria of marking.
Yeah.
So they will mark you basis whether you have understood the tail word and whether you have addressed all the parts of the question. In fact, this was one of the major changes which I made from
Hmm.
the previous year's
24 and
attempt.
25. Hmm.
Yes. So when I mentioned GS2, in GS2 also, I noticed that I was not completely addressing the demand of the question. So if
Okay.
the question was about a different subparts, I was just addressing one part and I was thinking the answer is done.
Hmm.
But when in an answer there is a statement, you do need to address the statement as well. You are not just focused on the keyword, but statement itself needs to be explained. What it means, give a brief background, and then you start addressing the main demand of the question. Now I do understand that in 10 markers you do not have a lot of time always,
Yeah.
and of course that time crunch is there and it happens with everyone.
Hmm.
But even if briefly you address that, even if briefly in your introduction you explain the statement,
Hmm.
then it is good. That is what I believe, because not every answer can be
No, actually,
perfect.
it's not just what you believe, it is a general good practice. कि if there is a statement given, मतलब you have to say yes or no. Do you agree with the statement? Do you not agree with the statement? कि भाई मतलब दिया है statement कि भाई हाँ, it is
Definitely.
कि भाई duty of controller and auditor general is not merely to ensure legality, but also its propriety. Why is it the duty? Duty है भी कि नहीं है? मतलब that is
Right.
a part that has to be addressed, and you're very correct in that. Okay. So, like, given that you have pretty much solved for mains आपका काफी अच्छा आपने solid कर लिया. So, apart from that first prelims, you did not like, how worried were you about, further prelims?
I was very worried. In fact, I remember Nimish sir reaching out to me for a podcast last time, and
Hmm.
I said, I very humbly said, "Sir, I have to prepare for prelims. So currently, I am not in that state," and
Hmm.
he kindly agreed. So when I actually had a lot of pressure about CSAT, so because I flunked CSAT once, and I
Hmm.
always had that fear that I might do it again. So I tried to ensure a balance between my GS and my CSAT preparation. So I would say 70-30 ratio, the time management. I devoted to, of course, GS paper.
GS.
And my preparation was again reading those same books again and again. So in my
Which books were
prelims,
you doing for CSAT?
for CSAT, I was just referring to a previous year question compilation.
Yeah.
And there were solutions also available on YouTube. So
Hmm.
I would solve but I would, for example, take a particular topic, time, distance, and work.
Hmm.
I would solve the previous year questions, and if I was not able to understand one particular question, then I was just do a YouTube search, and there were always videos available explaining how to solve those. So I took a lot of help from YouTube in
Hmm.
that regard. And yes, I think that is how I sorted my preparation for CSAT. And of course, comprehension. A lot of attention I paid to the comprehension as well, because we feel that because we can speak good English, then we might be good in comprehension, but that is not the case. That's
Hmm.
actually a chimera. So I did a lot of
Somebody using words like chimera casually, I don't think you'll have problems with comprehension, but please go on.
no, I actually did have
Hmm.
issues with comprehension. Like understanding, there are different types of questions in comprehension as well.
Hmm.
So I try to look at videos and solving them every Sunday. So Sunday
Okay.
I used to reserve for CSAT. I used to do, in fact, both papers. First half GS1, GS, and second half for CSAT.
Hmm.
So that was my approach for Sunday. And rest of the week I would focus on GS, mostly GS, and a little bit of PYQ
So
practice.
every Sunday you
So
would give a full prelims ka mock test, or was
yes,
it just like,
that's what.
oh, hmm.
Yes. Full every Sunday I used to give prelims.
From when?
In fact,
Starting when?
starting right from so after the I think this time around I started 8th March. 8th March I started my preparation. 8th March 2025 I
Hmm.
started my prelims preparation because I had my interview on 3rd of March last time. So 8th March I started, and the next upcoming Sunday, whichever it will be, I started giving mocks. So I
Okay.
used to in fact attend the online free mock tests that are there where you get a rank also. So that is very helpful in
Hmm.
understanding where you stand. So I have done that also. Like free mocks wherever they were available, I used to take them.
So generally, it's a good idea, but also I would suggest that for people watching it, take it with a pinch of salt. क्योंकि कभी कभार वो free mocks में, as Rupal will also tell you, there are people who are scoring 100 on 100.
Yeah.
Right. वो I have never understood why that happens. मतलब I'm sure there might be some genius candidates out there who are solving all things everything. But more probably it seems like कि भाई जनता बस like वो उसको भी गूगल करके उस मोमेंट पे कर दे रही है. So
Yes,
even though you may get a rank, it will give you a sense of the competition, but it's more important that you take back what you made mistakes on and learn from those mistakes. Right.
definitely.
So Rupal,
Well, I
were
would just
you?
like
Mhm.
to add on to that.
Please.
I think when I mentioned understanding where you stand, I meant competition with yourself, because in the mock test that I'm talking about, you get the percentage of questions, accuracy of every
Yes.
subject that you had. So all this analysis is very helpful in
Mhm.
understanding which subject you're lagging behind and what are your weak areas. So I used to look at that. They have very, I think, Vajiram mocks and even Vision mocks. They provide you with each subject accuracy level and the number of questions you attempted right, wrong. That is not possible when you do a physical, manual
Hmm.
mock test. So
But it's
that I
more
think that
cumbersome
is
and
very
time
helpful.
taking.
Yes, yes. But one advice which I took very genuinely from you was that after solving every mock test, analyze it properly. And I think one of your reels only suggested that make a kind of a table where you write your progress from first mock to the last. You write
Yeah.
your marks down and you see how progressively you're going forward. I diligently did that. I did that in both in my 2024 and my 2025 attempt.
And I
So
think
that really helped.
वो एक वही बेसिक चीज है क्योंकि दैट वाज समथिंग दैट आई आल्सो यूज्ड टू डू क्योंकि वही बहुत बार ये होता है ना कि बिकॉज वी आर गिविंग सो मेनी टेस्ट वी आर डूइंग सो मच दैट वी टेंड टू लूज ट्रैक ऑफ कि भाई वी हैव मेड प्रोग्रेस.
Definitely.
And
Yes.
this is something that is hard कि in the sense of like now that I mentor students and then April में आके वो बोलेंगे कि सर डर लग रहा है, घबराहट हो रही है कि भाई पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा कैसा हो जाएगा, तो उसको अब इंसान को मैं बोलूँ कि नहीं नहीं तुम कर लोगे versus
Hmm.
having your own scores written down from March onwards and you see the progress there. There is nothing that can beat
Definitely.
that.
And so for me, my mock test, my last mock test score has somehow reflected in my final prelim score also for 2024, and I think it might be so even in 2025.
How much did you
So I
score?
think in 2024 I scored 108 in GS, and CSAT I remember I think 85 or so. I
Good
just
enough.
passed that
Good enough.
that much,
Hmm.
and this time mark sheet is yet to come out.
So, Rupal, if you had to give some advice to people who are preparing for Prelims 2026, what would your advice be?
Sir, now I think it is too late for them to incorporate that advice.
No,
Uh,
technically
but
speaking, it is 8th of March when we are recording this.
yeah.
You started your prelims preparation on 8th of March last year, so it's not too late, I would say.
Yeah, that is true. But then, of course, I had some experience from my previous attempt
Of
also.
course. मतलब we're not assuming कि this person is starting today. मतलब फॉर्म वॉर्म भर दिया होगा, सब कुछ कर लिया होगा, थोड़ा बहुत कुछ है. But
Uh,
what advice would you give to them?
I think my advice will be to maintain that consistency that is needed. So you cannot study unsustainably for 2 3 days in a week and take an off on the other
Hmm.
days. You have to consistently study at least 8 to 9 hours every day. There is no hard and bound rule as to how many hours you should study, but I think consistency is what makes a difference in this exam.
Absolutely.
You should keep it sustainable, study a reasonable number of hours every day, and now because the prelims are approaching, you may even have to study for longer times. So I would say yes, maintain
Hmm.
that consistency, solve a lot of mock tests, because there is no overstating the importance of mock tests. They are very very important. So even if you feel you have not completed syllabus of a particular subject, please do attempt a mock test for prelims. This is prelim specific. And even in mains, in fact, in the 2 months that we get between prelims and mains, you have to make sure that you do not worry about completion of the subjects, because I am assuming you have completed your note making.
Some part you've already done.
Yes. So even if you're not able to revise completely that particular subject, you should still attempt the mock test, because it will be too late by the time you finish off the entire revision and then start writing. So I think answer writing itself is so important that you learn new content even with writing. So the mock test answers, the model answers provided to you, you should use them for content addition. That is how you use mock test answers. You do not memorize them. You look at the important data which is there, and you
Hmm.
incorporate them in your notes. So I used to make digital notes personally because it was easier to incorporate data there. But if people are making handwritten notes, that is also fine. But then make sure you use different inks and etc. to overwrite old data, because updating of data is also very important.
How do you make notes about any particular topic? Let's pick a topic. You give me a topic that you made notes on, and then just like break it down कि भाई क्या होगा इसमें क्या नहीं होगा, what are things that are excluded and what are the minimal things that are included.
Certainly. So I'll take example of art and culture, and say we have a topic paintings.
Hmm.
So how do you make notes of paintings? I first of all read NCRT, the art and culture
Fine
NCRTs.
Arts
I think
NCRT class 11th. Hmm.
yes, class 11th. Very, very important. So first of all, I would suggest you read the NCRT 2-3 times. It is
Hmm.
very important to understand what you are reading about. So first reading is just reading. To really understand and make it your own, it takes at least 3 readings. So
Yeah.
you do that. And then after the third reading, you start making notes. And how do you do that? When you have read 2-3 times, you certainly underline stuff. So
Hmm.
you underline things, and whatever is important, then you try to put it in notes. You try to include the because NCRT is not just about the text. There are also
Hmm.
subtext. There is images
Yeah.
which have certain titles to them. So it is very important that you read the titles, the names of those images, you incorporate it in your notes, because not always you will have the time to go through the entire chapter.
Book all over again. Yeah.
Yes. So make sure that those little value addition things are there in your notes. Even the names of paintings which are not very commonly known, if you include it, very well. In fact, it gives a good impression.
It gives a very good
So
impression of depth.
yes. So that I think is very important. And NCRT has a very good, that chapter is very good, I would say. The painting chapter, the art and culture chapter, I
No,
thoroughly
I think
enjoyed
the
it.
entire book is a very phenomenal book because I think I like giving an example over there. कि भाई there is a difference. There is a chapter which talks about कि भाई अच्छा there is the Sarnath school and then there is the Gandhara school.
Hmm.
And then they'll talk about कि अच्छा जो Sarnath school है similar to Mathura school है. Over here the halo is not very ornamented and the clothes are plain and XYZ. Well, it's all very, textual. On the next page, you'll see an image of, Buddha at Sarnath,
Exactly.
and you'll see a image of Buddha and Gandhara, and then like all of those words
Yes.
suddenly make sense to you.
They make sense. Correct. Yes.
So
That
I
is how
think,
even I read it. Yes.
and it's
That
a
is why I
phenomenal
said
book.
reading 2-3 times is very important, because
Hmm.
how will you remember those images?
Exactly.
I remember the Yakshini image in the Inexcel, which I saw during my preparation, and that helps me in in writing answers, because I
Hmm.
can explain the features of a particular school of art. So
Yeah.
I think that is very important. And also, when you read newspapers, also you come across several different, archaeological evidences found, discoveries, etc. It is very important that if it is possible for you, just note down very briefly the name of that particular image that was found. For example, I remember there was a lady with a parrot, which was
Hmm.
returned by US to India. So I think that was one painting or statue. It was
Hmm.
one statue. So I noted it down in my notes, and I would ensure that next time a question comes from that particular topic, somehow I will find a way to include that. So there is a lot of help you get even through one single fact. So I think that is how I made my notes, and of course, not just making notes, but revising them again and again is very, very important. So yeah.
Absolutely. So, Rupal, last question from you. If you had to recommend a book, कि भाई मतलब this is a book that every person who's preparing for UPSC should read, apart from the books that are in syllabus. So, what is a book that you would recommend? It can be a book or a TV series or a documentary or anything that you would want to recommend that is not syllabus.
Not syllabus. Okay. Actually, I have recently watched one Netflix series, Unorthodox.
Hmm.
It is very, very good. It is about a ultra-Orthodox Jewish community which resides in I'm not able to remember the name of the place in US somewhere,
Hmm.
and it's very, very good. In fact, I would not go into details. I don't want to spoil it, but Unorthodox is a very good Netflix series to watch.
Absolutely. And thank you for your time, Rupal. And it's been a wonderful pleasure talking to you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Likewise.